Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Not Funny Guys Presents Red Dwarf Rewatch. We're still on Series 1, but the fun part about British television, and by the way, I do say series, not seasons. Series 1 is actually only 6 episodes, so we're finally getting to episode 3. So let's jump into it, and let's start with a summary. And before I do that, let me just ask everybody if you have a preference. Do you like it when I just sort of freestyle, or do you want me to do like a summary and then some sort of analysis notes? Entirely up to you. If anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to comment, but I'm going to go starting with a summary. So, summary goes a little bit like this. Lister wants to go on a date with a hologram of his former love interest, Christine Kachansky, the navigation officer. However, this will mean replacing Rimmer as the ship's hologram, which of course he will not let happen due to his basically feeling like he'll never be turned back on. Also, he outranks Lister, his bunkmate. So Lister decides to take the cooking chef's exam so he can then he wants nothing more than to simply outrank Rimmer and allow him to basically get what he wants. Rimmer, of course, tries to discourage him in this process in many different ways. Let's get into the sort of the breakdown. Now, first of all, as always, one of my favorite little gags in the show is how we have Holly come on and do an SOS slash bringing us up to speed on what's going on so we know what's happening. And then he puts in these little taglines at the end, and one of them is he hopes there's no more war and so forth. And in fact, hopefully they've gotten rid of those little Western saloon doors at trendy shops. Yeah, those are annoying. So I think we have gotten rid of those. Congratulations, Holly. But it's a Saturday night, and Lister is basically going stir crazy while Rimmer's wants him to help him do inventory. And this is kind of like a fun little take on how they perceive fun. Where Lister, it's, obviously being slobbery drunk and drinking, and Rimmer, it's detailed inventory taking. Just polar opposites. They end up kind of threatening each other about the whole cigarette situation. Apparently, Rimmer's hidden the stash and threatens to send it out an airlock, and Lister basically obeys him, and for every day he obeys him, he gets a cigarette. He leaves. He's upset. He's going to go get a drink. He gets into it with Holly asking, why did you bring Rimmer back? And he says, look, Holly tells him Rimmer is the best person to keep you sane. He asks about Christine Kachansky. Why not her? Rimmer and he knew each other best based on the words they've exchanged. Apparently, this is Holly's measuring stick. How many words? And then which Lister counters by saying, but does it include the times he wrote me up and how many times I called him a smeghead? Lister then goes to the canteen, which is, of course, empty. He's drinking, and then he remembers a time when, like better times when, well, shall we say, everybody was alive 3 million years ago. And we see Christine there, people dancing. He's drinking with his friends. Christine goes sit down, and he's talking about his sort of crush on her, and his friends kind of mockingly make fun of him. But then Rimmer shows up asking about his revision timetable, and Lister basically admits he spilled food on it and hung it up to dry. Rimmer is also on learning drugs, which Peterson notes is illegal. But because of that, he's starting to memorize this moronic conversation he's having back and forth with him, and he has to leave. And later in the present, he runs into the cat who has a trolley. He apparently has found all the cigarettes that Rimmer was hiding. He then puts them back in exchange for basically Rimmer showing him how to use the dispenser and basically get all the fish he wants. Then we come upon Lister listening to Rostabilly's Skank, which apparently has a health warning. And so he starts chatting with Christine about the whole thing with Christine to Rimmer. Rimmer thought she was snooty. Lister wants to go on a date with her as a hologram. Rimmer is not going to do it. Hidden hologram. He's apparently hidden the hologram disc too. Rimmer pretendingly holds up a black card saying end of conversation, and then chides Lister for not remembering the rules. Rimmer is not going to help him. Rimmer basically pulls rank. He's a technician, and this is when Lister decides he's got to do something about this ranking situation. So he then basically prepares to take the culinary exam. And this whole process starts to freak Rimmer out a lot. The cat is picking out on the fish in the drive room. Rimmer walks in, asks Holly where Lister is. He won't tell him. He eventually finds him in the education lab or the education room, learning room, whatever they call it. But in the meantime, when he asked Holly to give him a fresh uniform, he accidentally gave him Peterson's arm. And he's still wanting Holly to put it back. And apparently the arm turns on him and tries to poke him in the eyes, and then eventually does, and then it hits him in the groin, whacks him in the head, and then finally Holly, after he had been begging, Holly gives him his arm back. And the whole time the cat thinks that he's basically in a pantomime show. Then Rimmer goes to the theater where he thinks he usually finds Lister. He finds the Scudders there. He gets mad at them for not working. This is when he eventually finds him in there. He's he takes this disgusting swig. He has a can, and he takes a swig of it. It's empty, and it's one that was empty that had cigarette butts. That's He opens a new can, and Rimmer. This is when Rimmer walks in on him, chides him about not having the proper stuff to do this, not going for the. And then basically he's like asking him all these engineering questions. Lister reveals he's not going for the engineering exam. And then he sees the drugs, and he's like, "Where'd you?" He does the whole Peterson routine. He's like, "Where'd you get those? Those are illegal." And he says, "I want to know where you got them. I want to know who did you get them from? Where did you get them? When?" And he goes, "Arnold Rimmer, his locker this morning." um, Rimmer then goes, we find him later in the bunk dictating to Scudder something about the red spectrum and quasars while the cat is laying with an overly full belly moaning on the bunk. Lister comes in, gets up to go do his secret business. Lister returns, of course, with a cake he's baked. Rimmer then tries to bribe him into not taking the exam. And he tries to use the cigarettes. Lister's already found them because the cat gave them up. They go down a terrible memory lane trying to convince him all the times they've had great times together. And apparently one of them involved Lister falling after our safety harness broke and having his spine broken in 3 places, and Rimmer laughing, and he had to go through traction and all that. He still refuses to give him Christine's hologram, then tries to order him to not take the exam. Lister basically black cards him for real this time. Lister knows Rimmer will follow the rules to the extreme without question. In fact, he admits that. Rimmer then, while Lister is taking the exam, Rimmer shows up in a sort of version of Christine's hologram with his personality to throw Lister off his game. Rimmer then has Christine reject him, pretending to be her. And this thing gets kind of blown. His cover is blown when he does up the ziggurat line phrase, and that Lister immediately recognizes him. And, and then he gets his body transferred back to his body, but he accidentally still has one of her boobs or breasts, and he then says, "Never mind, I'll take it." We then later find out that Lister has passed the exam. He gets his results. Rimmer wants to know, and he says, "How did it go?" He says, "Lister, how did it go?" And he goes, "Mr. Lister, sir." And then we cut to the theme song in the end. So just another fun episode. We'll be moving on. All these kind of episodes actually kind of lead into each other. So we'll be doing next time. That was Balance of Power. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Sorry, Balance of Power, directed by Ed by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. And this one actually premiered on 29th of February, 1988. My bad for forgetting that at the end here. But next time we have Waiting for God, Confidence and Paranoia, and then Me Too with a expound numeral 2 there. But we'll be doing those next time. We'll be getting to those in the next couple episodes. So next time it is Waiting for God. Until then, please like, subscribe, share, follow along with us. If you want to check out other Not Funny Guys things, we have Not Funny Guys Presents Thinking About Thinking with me and Dr. Kristen, our Not Funny gal. We have Wrestling with the Horror of It All with Casey and Eric, where they do horror movies and talk about professional wrestling. And then we have our regular main podcast, Off the Reels, where we do movies. We're currently on the John Wick series. So please come along and join us. Write to us. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. And I will see you next time. And until then, keep it not funny.